Hello everyone, this is Saurian Target coming back at you with another Carnivores Top 5 video, where today we're going to be looking at the top 5 worst, most pointless animals in the Carnivores games. So basically what this top 5 list is, in my opinion, the worst or most worthless animals in the Carnivores games. See, these games have always, to me at least, been ahead of other similar dinosaur games because each dinosaur was unique and fulfilled a certain role. They were like individual characters with no unnecessary overlaps or repeats. However, the franchise has begun to get lazy with this principle and have added creatures that are basically second versions of another animal that already fulfilled that characteristic or role, which makes them kind of pointless. And these are the creatures that we will be focusing on today. So without further ado, let's begin. So topping off our list at the number 5 spot, we have the Megaloceros, or giant deer. Now, in principle, the Megaloceros itself isn't a horrible addition to Carnivores Ice Age, and I totally get what they were going for. It's a more advanced creature to hunt because of its rarity and elegance, and can turn dangerous when wounded. The problem is, there are more interesting and exciting herbivores to hunt. You've already hunted big game like the Brontoterry and the woolly rhino, and by the time you've unlocked the Megaloceros, you're so close to the Smilodon and the woolly mammoth that Megaloceros kind of gets left in the shadows. Plus, Carnivores Ice Age did a pretty bad job with the creature rankings. In the first two games, you start off small with herbivores, and as you go you unlock dangerous herbivores and then more and more exciting carnivores, all building up to the T-Rex. In Ice Age, you kind of hit a slump right after the woolly rhinoceros. A big bird and a giant deer? Who cares? Ice Age starts off on a high, then slopes down to the slump right at about where the woolly rhino is, then picks back up at Smilodon before plateauing off after the mammoth. It's unfortunate, but Megaloceros just doesn't add anything of significance to the game, so it tops off this list at number 5. Moving down to the number 4 spot on the list, we have the Pelicanimimus from Carnivores HD and Reborn. Now, part of what made the original Carnivores games so special, specifically Carnivores 2, was the abundance of ambient creatures that roamed about and made the worlds feel alive. Most likely because of budget reasons, Carnivores HD could not quite replicate this, so they scaled down the Gallimimus model, recolored it, and put it into the game as a new dinosaur. So much for the uniqueness and individuality of dinosaurs in the Carnivores games. Now, the Pelicanimimus isn't a hindrance to the game, it's just a tiny, rarely seen ambient dinosaur that does help add to the world, but it's a shame that it's just a scaled down Gallimimus, so it comes in at number 4. Coming in at the number 3 spot, we have the Juvenile Suchus from Carnivores Cityscape. Now, as disappointing as it is, Cityscape did a fairly good job with making each dinosaur feel different and unique enough from each other, even if there were only like 5 of them. But then they took the lazy route and just shrunk one of the models and repainted it to add another dinosaur enemy. The Juvenile Suchus is that dinosaur, and it is so pointless. It fills the exact same role as the Nanotyrannus, as a medium-sized, fast-moving dinosaur. And it makes one wonder, where are all the juvenile Nanotyrannuses, or Giganotosauruses? Why are there only Juvenile Suchus? It's lazy, it's redundant, and it comes in at number 3. Moving down to the number 2 spot on the list, we have the Ankylosaurus. Now, not the one from HD and Reborn. Aside from its call, that Ankylosaurus is great and much needed. The Ankylosaurus that makes this list is the one from Carnivores 2, because it replaces the Pachycephalosaurus. Now, I adore the Pachy from Carnivores. I love its design, its call, everything about it holds a special place in my heart. And then they went and replaced it with the Ankylosaurus, who doesn't even add anything to the game. Instead of being a cool new dangerous herbivore, the Ankylosaurus just runs away at an alarmingly fast speed when it's scared. Its call even sounds just like a modified version of the Pachy call. The Ankylosaurus was very disappointing coming into Carnivores 2 and added nothing new to the game. It simply replaced an old favorite, so it comes in at number 2. Now, before I unveil the number 1 worst creature in the franchise, there are a few honorable mentions that I want to throw out. Or I guess they'd be dishonorable mentions in this case. First is the Troodon from Carnivores Dinosaur Hunter Mobile. Now, it's always cool to see new official dinosaurs added to the game, but at that point, we already had the Velociraptor, and the Utah Raptor, and the Allosaurus. We didn't need a 4th raptor-sized carnivore added to the game. It's just more of the same. The next honorable mention goes to the woolly rhino. Now, the woolly rhino gets an honorable mention because it's just not that memorable. You begin Ice Age hunting the huge brontoteri, or the medium-sized wild boar. There, you have your two main herbivore sizes covered until the mammoth. But then the woolly rhino shows up in that Ice Age slump, and it's just a smaller, uglier, less cool version of the brontoteri. Now, I get why it's in the game. When people think of the Ice Age, mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, and woolly rhinos are usually the first things that come to mind. You need the rhino to make the game feel whole. But it could have done something or been designed in a certain way to make it stand out more and not just feel like a watered-down brontoteri. And the final honorable mention goes to the bear in Carnivores Ice Age. Man, what a disappointment this thing was. After the animal roster finally recovered with the Smilodon and the mammoth, the final beast we got was just a plain old bear. It's not even that scary. It runs away at the slightest scent of you. Now, sure, we got the Yeti right after that. Well, 500 points after that. But the bear was a real disappointment to work toward. Like I said before, the game kind of peaks at the Smilodon and the mammoth. No one really cares about the small, cowardly bear, so it gets this honorable mention. And now, the number one worst, most pointless, most worthless creature in the entire Carnivores franchise is the Chasmosaurus. Man, I hate the Chasmosaurus. Why would you replace the classic Triceratops with a relatively unknown copycat that doesn't even really look like it's supposed to? The Chasmosaurus even uses the exact same AI the Triceratops did. If you're gonna go and make a new ceratopsian, make it the Pachyrhinosaurus or Styracosaurus. It's such a lazy and pointless addition to the game, added purely for the sake of expanding the dinosaur roster. Now, instead of adding the Chasmosaurus, what should have happened in Carnivores 2 is this. So Carnivores 2 keeps the Pachycephalosaurus in the second slot, right between the Parasaurolophus and the Stegosaurus. Then, instead of adding the Chasmosaurus in the dangerous herbivore slot, Carnivores 2 adds the Ankylosaurus there, because the Ankylosaurus could easily be the dangerous herbivore in the game, and I would have been way more okay with it taking the spot than a sorry Triceratops knockoff. That way, we keep the Pachy, and the Ankylosaurus gets officially added to the lore, while the Triceratops remains unblemished back in the C1 sector. This way, all the new dinosaurs that need to be added are added, and all the classic ones remain where they are, untouched and unspoiled, and no stupid Chasmosaurus has to show up in a Carnivores game. So the Chasmosaurus, the worst dinosaur in Carnivores. So there you go, guys. Those are my views on what I consider to be the top 5 worst dinosaurs in the Carnivores franchise. But what did you think of the list? Were there any that I forgot or that would have made a better contender for the number 1 spot? What's your least favorite animal in the Carnivores games? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time.